So,
with that, welcome to Beyond the Collar. My name is Joshua. This is Natalie. She's my slave.
that's my master, but he will be known as Joshua and not Master Joshua for the next hour. Sorry, I have to say that.
Yeah, no, she loves it. She loves
I love it. I love it. I'll take the opportunity.
So we're the co-host. Mary is generally with us, but she's unavailable this evening. Mary, we're with you. You're with us. So how did Beyond the Collar begin?
So Beyond the Collar began actually.
I'll be right back.
I think we've been hosting this call every Tuesday for the past year, I think. And Mary came to me after Joshua had been hosting a call called Uncovered Conversations with a group of masters and dominants. Forgive me, I'm letting people in at the same time as I give this introduction. But we decided together that we would like to start a conversation for S-types, to have a conversation about S-type related subjects and understandings in order to build a better understanding for ourselves as well as the community of Kinksters. And so after a couple of months of having a discussion for S-types and S-types only, we decided that it was in our best interest to create a more well-rounded conversation and invite dominants and D-types to join. And what's incredible about having a conversation for everybody is knowing that me, myself, owned and collared slave, has a dominant side as well and is able to not only learn and give perspective on my submissiveness, but I'm able to give a perspective on my chosen dominant side. And same goes for Master Joshua here, or Joshua. And for the next hour, again, I love doing that. And, he's a master, he's our master, Mary and I's master. But he also has a submissive side, and he's able to learn and bring his own understandings of not only dominance, but of submissiveness as well. So that's the beginnings of Beyond the Collar.
So, entering and commenting. So, we've had a few bombers in the past, so we've restricted people unmuting themselves. If you have any questions, raise your hand. We'll call you if you're open to speaking. You can also drop it into the chat. If you drop it into the chat, we'll read it anonymously because we're also streaming on Instagram and TikTok. The reason why we're doing it is because from our experience, there's so much information being passed that's positive and helpful. And with a lot of the feedback that we've gotten, it's like we want to make sure that we can get as much information out there to the people who are looking for it. So don't let that keep you from sharing. You can drop into the chat. You can message us directly as well. And we'll answer your questions and read out your comments. Mm-hmm. The disclaimer is
I'm sorry. Are we going back and forth? Did you talk about the little raise hand feature?
Yeah, if you're on Zoom, raise your hand. You have a little icon down here.
It's a little hard. It has a react button. You can raise your hand, and then we will ask you to unmute. And I think that you also said you could just use the chat if you feel like that is something that you would rather do today. I'll stop saying I promise.
Oh, the disclaimer. We want everyone to feel equal and welcome to ask the questions, regardless of how much experience you have, whichever side of the slash you're on. Jump in, right? This is for everyone. With that being said, it is a perspective-based conversation where I'm not speaking from the be-all, end-all of BDSM, and Kink, but more so from my own personal experience with it as a pro-dom and as a lifestylist. Lifestylist meaning someone who integrates the practices of BDSM into my day-to-day vanilla life. And the pro-dom, which we both do actually, is how we help people navigate their relationship with power and energy exchange consensually as professionals.
Awesome. I think that we hit everything. I think somebody asked in the chat how to find us on TikTok. I believe that it's kink with a Q .collective as well as Master Joshua NYC. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yeah.
And the videos from tonight's call, I know that when we upload them to our social media, I believe they get deleted after a month. That's just how it works with social media. But I've been slowly but surely uploading them all to the Kink Collective YouTube channel. So I will put all of the links to the social medias as well as the YouTube channel so you're able to go and watch the videos. after a month because on YouTube we are able to do that.
We also have Kat here co-hosting, so she'll be moderating. She's in the background. Say hi, Kat.
She'll come back on.
She'll come back on and say hi.
Streaming from Guatemala. But are we ready to start the conversation?
Let's knock it out.
Awesome.
I'm from Guatemala.
Kat, are you able to post the questions into the chat as we go through?
Yeah,
them?
I can go find them and post them. Let me find them.
Awesome, thank you.
And I'll go get them and bring them on.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. So today we're talking about punishment and disciplinary action in our BDSM practices. And we have technically 5 questions, but 6 questions because we have one that is tailored towards the dominants and one is tailored towards the submissives. But feel free to, respond and react and evaluate both.
Deal. All right, so define punishment within your BDSM practices. For you, what is the difference between punishment and disciplinary action? For the S-types, do you find punishment and or disciplinary action effective or meaningful? If so, what types? Consider specific. Toys, words, language, tone, choices, decisions, options, etc. If not, what do you find helpful for eradicating wrong, disliked, or harmful behaviors?
It's like, what a long question. I see those eyes.
For the D-types, how do you determine whether punishment or disciplinary action is necessary? How do you decide on the type? What steps do you follow in order to correctly match the misdeed to the type of punishment and or disciplinary action? How do you ensure that punishment and or disciplinary action remains consensual and safe? How do you negotiate boundaries and limits? What role does aftercare play? Is it any different?
Aftercare is like the plague sometimes.
Is it any different from your normal or standard routine? What does your self-talk, internal dialogue sound like after receiving a punishment or disciplinary action? Good one. And question 6 of 5. Can you share an experience where punishment and or disciplinary action had a positive impact on you and your dynamic? How about when punishment and or disciplinary action didn't go as planned? What did you learn from it?
I tried to abbreviate disciplinary action, but I realized that it wasn't a good abbreviation. So yes, I did write out disciplinary action 70 million times. So
Awesome.
anyway,
So question 1.
define punishment within your BDSM practices. For you, what is the difference between punishment and disciplinary action?
You go first.
Okay. For me, the difference between punishment and disciplinary action, and maybe I should define. Is that your earring?
Yeah.
It's gonna punish that earring.
I'm gonna punish this earring bad. Bad earring. All right, go ahead. Take it away.
So punishment, the difference between punishment and disciplinary action. For me, I was considering this today. We in our dynamic don't really engage in punishment as much as I think others on the outside may see BDSM and BDSM dynamics to do and to be. But for me, the difference is punishment is that initial correction. It's harsher than what the disciplinary action that follows looks like. For me, disciplinary action is steps to eradicate the behavior in a more, I want to say, softer way. That doesn't necessarily mean that the person who is going through the behavior eradication is feeling it softly. It's definitely them working through a change. But for me, the difference is punishment is you did something bad and now you need to know that you did something bad. So it looks like an action or a tone or specific words that will make that person know that they did something bad. And after that, disciplinary action can or doesn't have to follow. But for me, I think that it is necessary in order for the behavior to change or to find something that is a better choice for the other person to choose, to make a better decision for themselves.
Something that we don't talk about in here is punishment, which I want to drop in here, and I have my own perspective on it, but I wanted to drop it in because people consider punishment as a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Kat, could you drop the definition of punishment and discipline disciplinary action in the chat, as well as if you can find something on punishment, drop that as well.
What is a punishment from your perspective?
So it's like you're playing around, or you're in a scene, and right, you have someone do, you task them with something that is like they cannot win, and it's like, ooh, we're gonna have fun while I punish you and give you 20 spankings, something like along those lines. Or sometimes I've seen it translated over to, especially when it's around brat tamer, or something along those lines, where the top of the dominant is administering the punishment, but the person receiving it is enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's almost like punishing a masochist with something they enjoy. Right? Like you can't punish a masochist with pain. Right? It's like there's a satisfaction from that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that could be a form of punishment.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting, because I just don't, that doesn't, for me, in my understanding, that's just, there shouldn't necessarily be a word for that. Like punish, I understand what you're saying with the word punishment, but it just sounds like BDSM.
Yeah, look, I don't believe in punishment. Let me answer. All right, so punishment is the act of imposing an undesirable consequence on someone as a way to discourage a particular behavior. It can be used in many contexts, including child discipline and criminal law. Were you able to find something on disciplinary action, Kat?
I think she's looking.
And then she'll drop that. So punishment in the BDSM context. For me, it's the toll you pay for not accomplishing a task.
Scroll up, it's already in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Oh, disciplinary action is a corrective measure taken by a company against an employee who violates company policies or rules or doesn't meet performance expectations. So I would imagine maybe punishment and discipline as opposed to a disciplinary action.
Well, when I was doing research, yes, there was also the first definition was about almost like HR,
Mm-hmm.
very company based. But if you do punishment versus disciplinary action, and you look into more of the complexities that go underneath that, they actually have a lot of information about why disciplinary action is much more useful than punishment. Or if you're going to punish, you need to have disciplinary action that follows. And it has a lot to go into that talks about children and raising children.
Do you have an example?
So, from a punishment to disciplinary action?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll give a real life example. There was a long time where Joshua would say something to me and I would respond with, what? What are you talking, like just what? Question mark? And that was something that was rude. So we bought a shock collar and we used that to discipline me into not saying what, into using a better like, yes, master, I'm sorry, can you say that again? But if there had been many times before buying the shock collar, that you decided to punish me for it and use a punishment modality or tool like the strap, that could have been the punishment, and then we could have eradicated the behavior using the disciplinary action would have been, using the shock collar to work on that through that. But there was no punishment. There was just the shock collar.
Very solid. Okay, very cool, very cool. So with that, I'll say yes. A big daddy.
So with your definitions that I've read right here, what I just got from that is posing a punishment is putting something out saying, if you do, this is what's going to happen there. Disciplinary action, from a definition I read here, is the employee, as in the definition, has already done something wrong to violate the company or didn't connect with the performance expectations. Like it's already happened. Mm. Then there becomes disciplinary action. Punishment is if you do this, this is what's going to happen. Is what I got from those two definitions right there.
That makes a lot of sense.
Punishment is really just wanting to be hurt and enjoying it. It doesn't give that punishment. It doesn't give the undesirable consequence to be discouraged. No, because it could encourage them to do it again because they want. It's a reward, not a punishment.
Awesome, Big Daddy. Thank you so much for that, Kat.
What I would just add is when I tried to look up punishment, all it really kept saying was brat this and brat that. So
Cool. So, do you find punishment and/or disciplinary action effective or meaningful? If so, what types? If not, what do you find helpful for eradicating wrong, disliked, or harmful behavior?
I find that just knowing that a punishment could happen, or after enduring only a couple of punishments within my dynamic, that the fact that they could happen is enough for me to not want to participate in behaviors in which I know that punishment is to follow. For me, disciplinary action, I think Big Daddy said it very well, is it's past, like, it's already happened. So now what are we going to do in order for the event to not happen again, or the act to not happen again? I think with disciplinary action, it's more of the person did something unconsciously. For me, punishment is the person did something and knowing that it was wrong and knowing that they could have chose another decision. It's almost like a conscious, I know I'm doing this, I know I shouldn't do this, and I'm going to do it anyway. And that's why punishment is a bit more intense, and the punishment is a bit more intense versus the steps that follow to eradicate behavior and disciplinary action.
Cool. So I like the conscious versus subconscious part of it, intentional, right? It pushes me up against stealing because you're hungry. That type of moral conflict. As someone in a submissive role, I appreciate disciplinary actions and I appreciate punishments because it helps me course correct. I may get that from growing up with my parents that I did and the discipline that they gave me and the punishment that I received from them, or my time in the military with the Marines where when things didn't go as they were supposed to, there were consequences to be paid, right? And I like being scolded and I like being told I'm wrong and how and where, because it's very black and white for me. And unless I did it intentionally because I didn't agree with the command or with the order or with what have you, which I've got some of that shit under my belt, right? And I faced disciplinary action because I didn't do what I was told, and the punishments were severe, right? But it's cool because when I did get scolded for not following orders, it was because I believed what I was doing was right. And sometimes that was questioning management. Every time it was fucking questioning management. But it was necessary because change was necessary. And I was willing to pay the toll. Do I think it's helpful? Yes, when I fucked up and I need to be corrected, absolutely. Someone who rules with an iron fist and there's no grace for that, it's a little hard because I think I'm that guy sometimes too. Yeah.
Do you guys want me to read stuff in the chat?
Yes, I just want to add one little.
I like your snicker.
I just want to add one little note to the second half of the question. Mm-hmm. For me, the most painful and the most useful punishment is 2 words. I'm disappointed. It's like, after that, you don't need to do anything else. I mean, we can use the strap, which is my punishment tool. We could use something that's going to make me remember not to do it again in a more physicalized way. But after that, I'm going to punish myself for way more time than he's going to punish me. After that, it's all me punishing myself, and I'm my worst punishment.
Yeah, I'm my own worst punishmenter.
It's true, though. It's true. We'll get into that a bit. But Kat, can you read some of the comments?
Yes, I would be happy to. Punishments are not designed to discourage the behavior they are supposedly punishment for, but rather give the top an excuse to do X or Y to their bottom. They are a sort of role play which is played out for the mutual gratification of the parties involved. In fact, somewhat counterintuitively, I have seen punishment used as a reward system for bratty submissives.
Let me read one on social media before it rolls up. For
Yeah.
us, a paddling is typically for punishment, but I also enjoy being flogged as a reward, not a punishment. So it's a punishment for me.
Cool.
Thank you, Mom.
Next one is, in my opinion, consequence can be negative or positive, but is a result, unforeseen or known, of an action. I think they depend on the severity of the action. Then another one, punishment is for an act that was wrong, consequence for a poor choice. Discipline is trying to eradicate a continued behavior that is undesirable. Brats and masochists poke the D-type in order to get those consequences they like. It's a fun game between the D, S, and the punishment is also fun for both, but it also puts the S-type in their place, and it's an opportunity to play out the power exchange. Everyone wins that game. Someone agrees with you, Natalie, and says, I'm disappointed is the worst. And then there was, yes, that's the absolute worst. I always thought of punishment in terms of psychological conditioning. Punishment in psychology is stopping unwanted behavior. Disciplinary action, based on my interpretation of punishment, is a more umbrella term for actions taken to shape the sub's behavior. Disciplinary action can include reinforcement. And then fundament is a reward. Those are the comments up until now.
Those are some good comments.
Yes.
Really good comments.
Yes.
As I was listening to them, it made me think of times I've been disciplined back when I used to work for people, and as a contractor one time, I had gotten in trouble for overstepping the team leader who was fucking it up. Right? They were dropping the ball all over the place. And I stepped in and I corrected the course and I took over the lead from that point. The client had no idea. But when I got back, I got in trouble. I got disciplined for doing what I did. But it was cool because I did it for the reasons that I felt were right. The punishment was I didn't get called back to work with this contractor again, which was cool because he was running a fucking circus if I had to step in and do this shit. But then there's the other side of it where if I feel what I'm doing is right, I will take the punishment. Because what comes to mind is negative self-talk, which comes next, right? And it's like...
There's a comment here exactly about that. It says, absolutely agree. Knowing he's disappointed is enough, but then I get punishment if I self-punish because that's his job. I'm notorious for self-punishment for being too harsh.
Yeah, so if you receive a punishment from somebody and you don't necessarily think that you did something wrong, the self-punishment isn't going to be there.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be as bad as a punishment, but if you are punished from the person, your master, or from anybody, punishments happen all over the place outside of dynamics and BDSM. Did I just say the first part? And then you believe that you didn't do anything wrong, then it's going to be a lot less of a punishment. Did I say that first? I don't remember.
I got you.
You know what I mean. People know what I mean, right?
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? Yeah.
So, number 3 is for the D-types. How do you determine whether punishment and or disciplinary action is necessary? How do you decide on the type? What steps do you follow in order to correctly match the misdeed to the type of punishment and or disciplinary action? So, I'll call into example the what? That shit would drive me up the wall. It's like, I'm sorry, come again? Yes, sir. Yes, master. Right? Anything but fuck you. I mean, what? That's what that shit sounds like to me, right? And it's like, listen, I need you to not do that because it sounds rude. And the shock collar process was, I enjoyed it because of how quickly it worked. Because I don't. If punishment is on the table, I've dropped the ball. That's how I feel about punishment. If punishment has to be introduced, I did something wrong or I missed something. I could have done something better to communicate X, and it's a representation of me. The disciplinary action, there we go. So the disciplinary action is a result of you all the way up until I have to punish you. Then that's a result of me. Right? It's like, I need you to stop doing that. I need you to stop doing that. Okay, now what we're going to do now, because you're having such hard times, we're going to get the shock collar. And we're going to wear the shock collar. And every time you do it, I'm going to zap you to try to work out that response, that natural response. Because it's like, that shit doesn't fly. It doesn't fly with me. It's not going to fly with anyone in front of me, right? So we did that, and it worked. It worked pretty quick. It was a lot of fun.
We ironed it out.
we ironed it out.
I did not want to get shocked more than I had to. I'm not a masochist. I really don't enjoy it unless I'm in the right headspace for it.
Yeah.
Yes, Kat?
I just want to say to that thing, the difference would be you never said what intentionally.
Yeah.
If you said what intentionally, punishment would have definitely been in order.
It was just a habit.
She didn't do it intentionally until she got it under control, and then she started doing it intentionally.
But only in scenarios in which I knew he would laugh.
Yeah, that's true too. That's true too.
So one of the comments here is, one of the rules or limits for punishment I have is to not remove connection or create distance between the DS. I think punishment should have goals for growth of the submissive and increase connection and communication. I think that's why it is part of these dynamics. The D-type has to consider that when deciding what action to use. For me, punishment brings absolution and forgiveness.
Yes, punishment this is it. We've squared it. You've paid the toll.
For him.
For me.
For not me.
No, but that's
self-punishment.
But that's like, I won't drag that on. Right?
Right.
It's like,
or like you won't withdraw affection or do the silent brooding thing or something to continue to make bad feelings.
yeah, no, it's like, listen, fucking, and there's no warm up and there's no aftercare. It's like, go get me the belt. Whack, whack, whack. Whack, whack.
I would say that there's no aftercare directly after the incident or after the punishment.
But there is the check-in, there is the talking it through, and the debrief.
Yeah, there's usually an ask, what do you think your punishment should be? What punishment do you think matches the misdeed? So normally it's not him coming up with what my punishment should be. It is him asking me, what do you think matches the punishment correctly? And him saying yes to what I've said, or to saying, actually, I think you deserve more or less. And then there's a negotiation on what the punishment within that frame.
Cool. I've never seen it like that. I'm happy that you've said that, because I want it to be a process. Like, there's a process to it.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what keeps it consensual and safe, is you're asking me, what do you think will match the misdeed? What is your choice in the matter?
And we've even corrected one time when what I was using wasn't, you enjoyed it, and you were forthcoming with that.
Oh yeah, I did say that, right?
Yeah.
So, actually, no, this is nice. Yeah, I enjoyed this. He picked up a toy and he hit me with it as a sort of punishment, and I was like, actually, I enjoy how that feels, so we should probably choose something else.
Yo, yes. No, but
because then I wouldn't have changed my behavior, or I don't even remember what it was at the time. Maybe that's a good thing or a bad thing. Maybe the punishment didn't work. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah.
No, but it's that level of communication that we have too, right? It was, I want to correct X, or please help me correct Y.
It's true, because only I, as the person receiving the punishment, will know what it will take for me not to do the behavior or do what I did again. And if that is choosing something, a physical toy or something in which I'm going to receive, and it's going to be intensely physical on my body to the point where I'm like, I cannot make that decision again, it has to be mostly me choosing it.
Yeah. So how would you answer number 3 yourself?
How do you determine whether punishment and or disciplinary action is necessary? I think for punishment, I think I explained it a bit earlier, it is.
I want you to put yourself in the professional headspace, working with someone where they've asked you, or you've asked them, they underperformed or did the wrong thing, and now you're in those shoes. How? And this is very random and it's very hypothetical. But
Yeah.
I'm curious as how you would feel about it.
So if I was working with somebody who I had built up a relationship with in the professional realm, I think that is the only time that I would put punishment on the table. I think the punishment for somebody who I haven't built a relationship with would be get out.
Ooh.
But if I know that I have built a relationship with that person and we have a connection with one another, I would negotiate punishment beforehand to make sure that, I wouldn't strain the relationship just off of one or more actions or choices or behaviors that they've made and done.
That's gangster, man. If I don't know them, the punishments get out. For real, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, because that's a place of empowerment, right? Is to say, when we spoke last week, I don't work for you, I work with you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's like, we're adults here, and I'm to be respected.
Mm-hmm.
And my word is law.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, man, what?
But it's also, for me, I think I think punishment is deserved when the person has, again, done something intentionally. They've made a choice intentionally knowing that it was wrong. And I think it has to be more in the morals and ethics and category. Like, you've morally done something wrong. You've lied. We've talked about, and I'm not saying cheating because I feel like lying and cheating go together.
Yeah.
But you cheated the system, and we've had a conversation about it, and you know what my beliefs and my understandings of it is, and you decided to do something anyway.
Cool. Kat?
I also think, though, that, because intention was the first thing that I thought of, but when you were talking, the other thing that I think, too, is disciplinary action can ratchet its way up to punishment if the repetition isn't getting the job done.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So if you tried and you're doing it and it's not changing the behavior, even if it wasn't intentional that you were doing it, it's like after a certain number of times, the behavior should change. And if it hasn't, then punishment becomes necessary because the disciplinary action isn't working.
Thank you, because that's the escalation for me. Now that
Yeah.
you say it like that, I didn't have the words to put it, but it's like smaller corrective measures. It's almost like warning, write up.
Yeah.
Right, except warning, belt.
Yeah. And I know we'll delve into a bit more of our experiences with it later, but I think it can also go the other way. I mean, it can go both ways, right? Disciplinary action, upping the ante until the punishment, or if something just was almost like a snap decision on the party who made the decision, can be punishment, and then disciplinary action in order to eradicate the behavior so that the punishment doesn't happen again, or the large,
Yeah.
There's a comments here that says there are hard limits that should be established within the dynamic, hard limits within punishment and discipline.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yes.
With that being said, I don't think we've discussed hard limits within punishment. You and I in negotiation or things like that.
No, but there's a relationship and an understanding. No hot sauce.
No hot sauce in private places.
That's the only thing I can think of that you would knowingly decide to do as a punishment, knowing that I would have a panic attack.
I'm really glad my microphone was off for that.
But yeah, listen, yes, Arch. But I don't personally, I don't come out of left field with things. And should you have a conflict with something, you have the space to say so.
Of course.
Right.
Not saying you're gonna say yes or no to it.
But there's a platform.
There's always a conversation.
And that's the hard reality of MS, right? Is the level of consent and agreement and responsibility and reliability, right? It's like, I'm doing this because I'm trying to change something, address something, shift something. We're doing this because we're trying to make something, right? It's like accountability ultimately is what it boils down to. And am I open to being disciplined from you when I'm wrong? Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be from the physical sense, but it's the same, man, I'm beating myself up more than you're beating yourself up. Mm-hmm. What does discipline and punishment look like the other way?
I'm not sure.
I mean, imagine if I wasn't perfect. Look at Cat's face. imagine, I'm kidding.
I'm having a whole conversation with myself, not for nothing.
Cat everybody.
when I make a mistake, like, how does punishment and discipline work that way? Because I've been called out on past behaviors. I've been checked. I've dropped many balls in my time. Mm-hmm. And I think the punishment comes from the disappointment too, right? Disappointment in myself for not having reached the level, disappointment in underperforming, disappointment for getting it wrong. I agree with you in the sense that what I do to myself is much harsher than what you can do to me.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, and within MS as the slave and on the right side of the slab, that the only way, or not the only way, but the best way that I can consider what our relationship has looked like and what discipline and punishment could be is just expressing my concern in the most direct way. And knowing, as much as I know you, that, again, self-punishment and self-disappointment and just expressing the concern and the disappointment from my own language and my own, and verbalizing it to you is at the moment what I can only consider to be discipline.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Big Daddy. Oh. Sorry. There you go.
So, all right, I lost my question. So, one of the reasons why I consider myself to be a dom is the lack of wanting to hear. Let me see if I word this right. Wanting to hear the discipline or being disciplined, figuring it out on my own, kind of thinking. I know what I need to do, and I've struggled with that somewhat. But I think I've taken that into the dominant role where I'm taking dominance over this, and I'm going to move forward with whatever I'm doing. And I think that's one thing that I've taken into it, and that's one thing I'm listening here is how this is all processing. But you asked that question on the dom point of view, and being so new into it, I processed that and figured I'd bring that up. Anybody has any ideas on that?
Yeah.
Cool, thank you. If anyone has any comments or answers to that, please drop it in the chat on social media as well.
And from hearing that, it made me think about accountability partners and from people in dominance and talking to other dominants and others masters, and maybe that's why, that's where the discipline and the punishment is more derived from other people within the community who know you and know that you've made better choices or made better choices, period.
Accountability partners. That's how Uncovered Conversations started. It was myself, Master Eli, Master Sourgo, Master Celestia, and Master Ren. And we would sit and we would talk about what it means to be dominant and speak from our human experiences, dominance and heads of households, in the privacy of Zoom and us five. Ultimately taking it to the social media platforms so that people can hear this conversation, so that we know, or people know, that you're not the only ones going through this and having these questions. So creating your own pods of dominance or people in which you can sit and process all of this stuff, either if you've got the experience, if you don't have the experience, what do I do, how should I do it, so that you're not, I think we all wing it for the most part. But so we talk about it with other people who are winging it too, right? So that we're making less mistakes. And we're able to approach this from a much more responsible position.
Mm-hmm. Totally, yeah.
All right. So, what does aftercare play? What role does aftercare play? Is it any different from your normal or standard routine? What does your self-talk, internal dialogue sound like after receiving a punishment or disciplinary action?
So, is my aftercare different from my normal aftercare? I would actually have to say that there is more aftercare after punishment or disciplinary action is induced, not directly after. Directly after is time for me to consider my choices and to really embody the punishment in which I deserved and chose for the most part. And that is usually the hardest hour or 2 or 3 is directly after, in which I've received the punishment, or I've basically chosen the punishment or negotiated the punishment, I've received it, and then I have to sit with the physicalized embodiment of that punishment as well as my self-talk and internal dialogue, which I was trying to put into words exactly what my self-talk and internal dialogue says, but it's not like you're bad or like you're a bad person, you made a bad choice. It's like, wow, you really fucked up and now you have to sit with this until it's gone. And period. And that just kind of goes on repeat every single time I think about the choices I made.
Forever!
Usually about a week and a half. It goes up and then it starts to dwindle and I start to be reminded of my choices little by little.
Don't forget your choices.
But the aftercare that I receive is usually the day after. And like Joshua said, there isn't, after the punishment is delivered, there isn't any, it's gone. Like obviously what I did is what I did. Like there's no erasing that, but there is no resentment or no frustration or not shown to me within my choice and what I had completed.
With that being said, punishment isn't something that happens every other week. It's not something that happens often at all. It's very rare.
Maybe like 4 times.
Ever.
Yeah.
Wow, 4. Shit, I only counted 1. But
well, the 4th time I don't remember because it was a toy that I liked. You brought that up. I was like, I can put into 2 pretty big ones and 1 medium-ish one, and then this one that I don't remember, so it must have not really been that important.
That's fair.
It must have been in the beginning where it was really like, should I punish her for this?
For myself, aftercare, a debrief, yes.
Yes.
Aftercare doesn't happen. A warm-up and aftercare aren't part of this. Aftercare for me, outside of this, is difficult because of my need to move, my need to continue building. If not, it's like aftercare turns into scene 2. So it's like it's hard for me to have aftercare, period. But when it comes to punishment and discipline, I have to do a check-in, emotional, spiritual check-in, make sure that we are both on the same page about what and why I did it, what I did and why I did it. So that we can say, so do we understand what happened? Okay?
There's a clarifying question here that says, so are you guys saying that aftercare should be at a later date, but not right after the punishment? So there should be or not be, or is it a matter of when is it?
For myself, because I can only speak from my position, I check in with them because I need to know where they're at, if they understood why. It's almost like once you have a disciplinary meeting with an employee, and you make them sign the paper and say, you know why we disciplined you, right? This is kind of that, except it's from an equal platform. Like I'm coming to her from as Joshua, the man who is her master, to Natalie, the person who's playing his submissive slave, right? It's like, are you okay? Are you okay? Yeah. Like, do you understand why I did it? And I'm not talking from here. I'm talking from here because I need to know that we're both on the same page.
Yeah.
That's how I do it. Some people need that, some people don't need that, some people function differently. Now, with that being said, when we connected, we didn't negotiate about discipline. That wasn't something we sat up on the table. And 2020 hindsight, is that something that should be in these contracts and negotiations? 100%. This is the way that ours played out. So if punishment, because the other thing is, I don't lead with punishment, like with the person who's going to disappoint me. It's also a case-by-case thing. For example, if I had another slave who was ultra forgetful about everything, I have to be very lenient in that space because it isn't choice that they're doing that shit.
It's unintentional. It's
not intentional. It's like, it's part of their character and I can't punish them. Imagine punishing someone for a mental health issue. And I was leading with that because of my own frustration, but then I realized, wait a second, it has to do with her processing. It has nothing to do with her inability or lack of desire to follow instruction. And as the dominant, as the master in that case, it's like, well, I feel like a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know that was the case. So with that, understand that we have to talk about this stuff. It's important that we have the follow through. Because if I didn't have the follow through with her, I wouldn't have understood that they're trying their best to stay on top of it. And that this is something that they've been dealing with for a long time. Right? So it's tough. It's tough to on when and how. Like, it is something that if you have a question, speak to another dominant or speak to another submissive about your position. Reach out to us. Shit, if you're up in the air about it, and then we can sit and process and talk through that too.
Yeah, and I think it's choosing the punishment. I think I want to say it's circumstantial. That I believe not looking into the future and thinking of my future punishments because of the choices that I make. But I can imagine that his choice to not give me aftercare could change depending on my reaction and my response. And I think that it is very circumstantial, and I don't think that there should be hard protocol involved with if there should be aftercare, if there shouldn't be aftercare involved directly after a punishment. I think it really has to be a bit wavy. It can't be like, okay, this is how it's going to go, because you can't just, for me, it just doesn't seem right to do that. But I think additionally with punishment and disciplinary action is just one of those BDSM things, for lack of a better word, that you have to touch the iron lots of times in order to figure out what is the best way to go about it for that person. Because you have to be able to experience punishment and to be able to experience how you self-punish and to be able to experience the reaction and response of the person who's being punished in order to make the best decision for them moving forward and what's actually going to eradicate their behavior, whether it's punishment or disciplinary action.
So that being said, there's a comment here that says punishment in a dynamic is done out of love and agreed upon to help in growth goals and on appropriate behavior. If there wasn't follow-up with discussion and understanding and forgiveness, it's not for self-gratification and or power over another. Domineering, not dominant.
Yes.
Yeah. So number 6, can you share an experience where punishment and or disciplinary action had a positive impact on you and your dynamic? How about when punishment and or disciplinary action didn't go as planned? What did you learn from it? So the positive, I think, is I want to go to the what one.
Okay.
What sounds very disrespectful to me. Like, that's like a big one for me. And it removed that sting of, and it just, I guess it's the way I was raised. In how a person's receiving, how you're receiving someone's energy and communicating and stuff like that, it was very stressful for me, because I'm like, how much shit really gets me like that? But that was really one of them. So with the changed behavior, which I had a lot of fun doing with the shot collar, mind you,
which I didn't wear around my neck. I wore it as an anklet, by the way.
But it worked, and it worked.
I also made him try it beforehand so that he knew what he was giving me. which was really fun to watch because it was like 5 minutes of him being like, no, because both of us don't really enjoy pain to the amount in which some of us people think that we may.
You know. But yeah, it's like it alleviated. It made me feel like it made me feel heard. It made me feel heard. Like I'm willing to work on this because you don't want it, and we're gonna work on it the hard way, but we worked on it.
I mean, it didn't bother me as much as it seems to have like given you physical tension in your body. So I was happy to change because it was simply a habit for me. And that's a habit is no comparison to that.
And I think the other answer I gave about the person with their inability to remember was people learn differently. And sometimes the way that they process conflict, like ADHD, fuck around, dude. Imagine having been punished in different ways for having ADHD, either in the education system, in the behavioral systems, where people didn't understand what I was going through. That's what I learned from being able to sit with someone and see that what they had was their processing situation. It wasn't their choice. I learned to chill the fuck out just a little bit, because I needed to know that what was happening wasn't out of disrespect. It was out of different processing. Mm-hmm. So that's what I learned when punishment and disciplinary action didn't go as planned. It was like, it's like imagine punishing someone for not making a right turn when all they can do is make left turns. Mm-hmm. Right? It's like, it's not fair.
Yeah. I personally haven't had any negative experiences associated with any of the punishments that I've endured, other than seeing my punishment toys and hearing my punishment toys used on other people during play. That has been really difficult, and I've had to take myself out of the room a few times because of that. But I've always made it known and spoken about it afterwards, just because it's so like, it brings the experience back. So it's such a visceral experience. Like I've physicalized in my body, so feeling it and hearing it is a bit intense, and then having to see it be used on somebody else who I care for is even more intense. But other than that, I've had good experiences. As I'm like, literally.
As I cry in memory.
It's been great.
No, it actually warms my heart how you said that. Like, it was like, because it's in you.
Yeah, no, so it's, but underlying all of that, the discipline and the punishments itself, I haven't, other than the fact that they're obviously not enjoyable, because I've made the wrong choice. I believe that they have been useful in me deciding to make other choices and bettering myself. Because all punishment and discipline is, and should be for, in my opinion, is to make the person make better choices for themselves and to be a better human being. It shouldn't be used in a way in which is going to make the person self-destruct. And it can get a bit complicated and complex when you have to put trust in the dominant or the master or the D-type to visualize you as a person and your choice is better, but that's just what MS and DS is. You have to put the trust in the other person in order to make sure and know that, you know, you're going to be safe in their hands and they're going to choose what is best for you in those times.
There's a comment on TikTok that says my dom being compassionate with my memory disorder when I've been punished for it all my life means everything to me.
There's a comment here that says, having ADHD, I sometimes have to mull things over a few times to fully understand what my master was saying to me. I don't process the full meaning right away.
Awesome.
I get that.
Yeah, all the time.
What a conversation, I have to say. These were really well thought out questions, and they helped me dive in and look at a few things, which I'm thankful for.
Good. Me as well. Me as well. I'm really happy that we were able to, everyone seems to be really happy to talk about punishment and disciplinary action, which is great. Excellent. Yes, Big Daddy.
I think it's important to mention that you know how you said you noticed somebody was using your punishment tool for pleasure, and how that made you feel uncomfortable. I processed that like you felt like that was punishment for them, but I think that was something that was valuable to talk on, because they talk about not using punishment tools as fun toy tools to keep them separate.
No, it's because for me it's a punishment tool. For other people, that they find it pleasurable, and that's for most people they find that tool pleasurable. So
That's my favorite toy. I felt that way. I was like, oh no.
It's a bit difficult. It's a bit, and then it wasn't even, and also in that experience it wasn't even cat, because a lot of people find
it's a crowd favorite, man. It's like a thick strap. It's like a thick leather strap that's like dense, and it's like punchy and stingy.
It's a belt.
It's
a huge belt.
It's like a giant's belt.
Okay.
Actually, let me go grab it. Just kidding.
I don't mind looking at it as long as I don't have to hear it or see it being used on somebody else. But that's also what's important. Oh my God! Charlie Horse.
Yeah.
Like, it's also what's important to say about triggers and about seeing being triggered in a space and knowing that taking yourself out, making sure you're okay, and telling the person, especially like in kink and play parties and play spaces, it's like a safe space. We can talk about these things. Yes, Kat. Kat, did she freeze?
Oh, did it freeze?
Did we
I
freeze?
think she froze.
Did
we freeze? Okay, we didn't.
Oh, it was Kat. Okay, okay. We're like, you froze.
I froze.
Yeah.
Yes.
My connection.
You're good.
There was a question here though that seemed really worth asking. I always feel like I'm not enough, or I'm what my dom wants after a punishment. As a brat, I'm always pushing boundaries and asking for it, but after, awful. How do I deal with the guilt once the punishment is over?
Ooh, you need a brat to someone who has that type of I think it's learning where the line is. You can brat.
Here's the answer. I think it's learning where the line is. You can brat, but knowing where it's going to tip into bad behavior versus fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's difficult because bratting is cool, but we're not getting into the realm of punishment with bratting. Like, that's just disrespect, or maybe not, because then I bully, because the bully is the opposite to the brat. Right, it's like, for me, I will become the bigger brat, and I will punish you from the bully side.
It's awesome to watch, actually. If only Mary was here, then we would be able to delve into this a bit more, because she would probably have a pretty good response to that.
Yeah. Oh, Mary. Oh, but it's different, because when I'm punishing from a bully perspective, it's to break the brat in you. And it's to require obedience. It's a very powerful thing. But
big brother, little sister sort of situation.
Yeah. But like the other person said, it's about learning where the line is.
Yes.
Because that can create undue stress and negative feelings within the power exchange and resentment ultimately.
Yeah.
Right. So discuss that stuff heavily. Ms. Mariposa.
Yes.
There we go.
Sorry, it was, getting a little out of control there. So I wanted to just kind of put out an experience there, because I know for me, I tend to be very, like, if I don't feel heard or if I don't feel seen, I tend to take that brat portion of the party to the extreme, which can seem to be, disrespectful and things like that. And so my master and I had several, I don't know, probably a couple years worth of, just trying to navigate what that looked like. And a lot of emotion on both sides of either not feeling like enough or not being able to do enough, or and so anyway, so we finally I actually asked for a punishment. I was like, I think we need, like, I think for both of us, like, we need a punishment. And I was given the choice of either doing it because we have a long distance relationship, so we live 4 hours away. And so I was given the choice of whether to do it in person or from afar, and I chose to do it in person. And I just, for our relationship, it was just a huge, like, it was just kind of all of these, like, sins just kind of absolved. And as much as we like to say, you know, hey, we're going to leave that there and move on, that's always the difficult portion of that party, because past sins, regardless of forgiven, are never forgotten. But I know in my experience, just sometimes on either side, whether it be on the S side or the S side or the M side, sometimes those feelings are hard to navigate. And I know for us, like, we didn't do like a full-on aftercare, but there definitely had to be some reassurance going on, and we both knew why the punishment was happening. Like, there was not any question of why, or was it deserved, or did we understand, but there definitely needed to be that reassurance there that, you know, this is kind of where we were, this was where we were leaving it, and this is where we're moving forward.
Thank you for sharing that experience. I think there was lots of words that were used that I wasn't able to use within this conversation. Reassurance. There was something that you said, forgiven but not forgotten, and a couple of phrases which I think are really important that hit on punishment and discipline very well. So thank you for sharing that.
Relatable, I think D-types who ignore all behavior or let rules go. As an S-type, it can feel a bit neglectful. Definitely something to discuss. Rules without follow-through aren't rules. Physical punishment to help alleviate my own mental beatdown is what started me down the BDSM lifestyle. Cool. Accountability.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It is 8:33. It's been an incredible conversation.